All right, so good morning again. And so on behalf of Dr. Cardinal, I would like to welcome you all to the 8th session for critical lung. It is a pleasure to say that after 8 years, we have still managed to build an intercontinental and international coalition around the topic of lungs in critically ill patients. Some data has shown you that there's a lot of participants from 85 countries, 734 cities around the world. So this reflects the globality of this issue, and we can hope to continue working on these activities. In this occasion, we have more than 3,000 people online interested in different topics such as interventions in mechanical ventilation and the like. So I would just like to extend a welcome from Colombia to our colleagues in Europe, the Americas, Africa, Asia, anybody who's interested in critical care. We invite you to participate actively with your questions and your concerns to make this a richer discussion. All I'd have to say is to leave you with Dr. Guerrero. Doctor. All right. Good morning, evening, depending on where you are. So, hello from Madrid. I extend a warm welcome to all colleagues following us in Latin America, the United States, Africa, and finally here in Europe. I address you in representation of HMH Hospitals in order to welcome you to this 8th session for the World Day for Critical Care, which we hope and expect will have a similar response to and results compared to our previous sessions. This session will highlight the importance of lung and daily pathology. This is not just for ICU specialists, but also pulmonologists, internists, and I have to say once again, it is the most prevalent pathology that we find worldwide. We need to consider that worldwide, we have 65 million people with obstructive lung disease or COPD, without even considering infectious respiratories, ARDS, or even mechanical ventilator-associated pneumonia that is responsible for so many casualties. So the purpose in this session will be to have a rich analysis and discussion of critical lung pathology. And between ourselves, we expect that we can improve our diagnostic capabilities and our treatment. So more than anything, I would like to thank the organizing committee for their efforts, for Dr. Guillermo Ortiz, and also to the chairperson of the Ibero-American Lung Association and all other present authorities. And finally, Dr. Belda, who just joined us. And he is the General Medical Director at HMH Hospitals. He was incredibly enthusiastic since the first edition, and have now participated in that measure. We expect that we can enjoy this session, and hopefully we will be very successful. Dr. Martin, whenever you're ready. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maricruz Martin. I am also speaking from Spain. I am an intensive care physician. I am the head of the 12 de Octubre Teaching Hospital ICU service, and I speak as the organizer of this World Critical Lung Day and this symposium. It is an honor, together with Dr. Ortiz and Dr. Guerrero, to welcome you all to this new session. As you've already heard, this joins the interest of many professionals in anesthesiology, ICU, pulmonology, and the like, regarding lung disease and the management of respiratory insufficiency. This annual event, I think, speaks to the interest and also to the organizational capabilities through the participation of scientific and international societies, such as the World Critical Society or the Pan American Society for Critical Medicine, or national entities such as the American Intensive Care Society or the Spanish Critical Medicine and Coronary Unit Society. So during the following hours. We're going to have several lectures from several experts in different countries on the respiratory system and its diseases. I am certain that together with the participation of the professionals online that will continue to join us in the coming hours, I am certain that it will be just as productive, if not more, compared to previous years. I would like to thank the presence of Dr. Pablo Cardinale for participating in this committee, for truly being the driving force behind these sessions, and HMH Hospitals for their initiative and for their sponsoring of this session. And finally, Distribuna, that is always sessions, who has always supported this and major scientific event. I'm sure you will greatly enjoy the following activities. And so before our inauguration, we will also have the pleasure of having the participation of Dr. Carlos Mascias. He's a physician and head of the teaching hospital HME in Madrid Rio, and his title, the title of his conference is "It's Not All the Same." Doctor? All right, thank you very much. Again, I bid you all a good afternoon. If you are more or less in the Spain time, I understand we have listeners from all over the world. I don't know how many people we're speaking to today during the session, but regardless, it is an absolute pleasure for me to have Dr. Cardinal and Dr. Guerrero, who have endowed me the responsibility of opening up this session here at HMA Hospitals. We have been listening for a long time to this idea of the long critical day, and it couldn't be any other way. Honestly, when Pablo asked me to say, well, when he talked to me, say like, hey, would you mind talking to the participants for a little before we start? I was thrilled to do it, of course. So very quickly, I'm going to share a presentation to tell you a little bit about this, because I understand you have a packed session and it is extremely complete as well. So let's try to discuss this concept, this title of the conference. Now, the other day, Dr. Cardinal, right before the inauguration of the Guerrero Hospital, the HMA Hospital in Madrid Rio, or rather the NIF Hospital from our Madrid group, which we opened up exactly 1 month and 6 days ago. Well, back then Pablo heard this session, this little phrase, and I said maybe that would make a very good opener and a topic for the conference. So, in any organization, there is a culture, or rather, in any hospital, any pulmonology service, any Pilates group on Saturdays, any home for that matter, will have a culture. And the culture can be diagnosed easily. In the case of the professional environment, you can start with these two questions. Why am I here to work, and why do I get paid to do? It takes you 3 seconds to make these questions, but it takes a lot longer to actually answer them. So when I was faced with these two questions back in the day, I didn't really know how to answer them. It is very likely that many of you are also thinking, well, what exactly am I working for? Well, I come to work because I have to see patients and I have to care for them. Why do we get paid? Well, sometimes you get paid to be on shift, regardless of whether you get paid patients or not. That's a complicated question, and it does need a very elaborate answer. So after thinking about this question for a while, I finally managed to get a patient to answer for me. And this patient is the one that you see on screen right now. This is an 11-year-old female. If you see here, she has a plagiocephaly. She has a cranial fusion during her in utero life. And so part of her head grew abnormally and clearly in a deformed way. And also there's a clear mental retardation. So I brought this patient because her death at age 11 taught me something. It answered this question for me. And I would like to share that answer with you so that hopefully you can start answering your own questions. This patient died at age 11, but she died at age 11 more than 500,000 years ago. We don't have a picture. We only have a reconstruction done by some very talented sketchers for this type of exercises. So you'll notice the type of skull, this type of cranium, compared to the scanner that we found, was actually found in a deposit in Spain, in the province of Burgos, in the Atapuerca demarcation. It's called Bone Top or Bone Summit. It is supposedly one of the greatest archaeological sites in the world, one with the greatest value, and we found the skull. So anthropologists and archaeologists who discovered it baptized this child as Benjamina. In Hebrew, this means the most beloved. Now, what is the relevance of this? What is the relevance of this finding, and why do I want to speak about Benjamina during this opening session? Well, Benjamina's teachings are extremely important. 500,000 years ago, anything that lived on Earth, anything that resembled us, that is a hominid, but for that matter, any animal, any living being who was born, any mammal who was born with a clearly visible deformity as well as mental retardation, well, naturally, it is most likely that she would have been abandoned. That is, like a little runt, she will be abandoned to die because she would not do the most basic function of any animal. That is to safely transfer their genetic code to the next generation. What happened then with Benjamina's family in this cave in the province of Burgos 500,000 years ago? Well, indeed, Benjamina's family had something to say about that. It was not the same for them to leave her to die or to care for her. And they did what makes us human, what differentiates us from the rest of creation, and what 500,000 years ago started making a difference in our species. And that is caring for others, caring for another person who we know for a fact that our time and energy will not result in the transmission of our genetic code. At this point, we truly start to set ourselves apart from the rest of creation. So many of our professors, when we studied medicine, they said, well, what really set humans apart was having an opposable thumb. That allowed us to grasp tools, to use the tools, to use instruments, and start developing the brain to enhance and develop this ability to wield tools and to build things that were otherwise impossible, not at least spontaneously in nature. But no, what truly sets humans apart from the rest of creation and what makes us uniquely human is our ability to care for others. And it all starts with this phrase: it is not the same. This is what has joined us today. Indeed, thousands of physicians joined today from all around the world in an obsessive and relentless task to learn to care better for the patients, but with the most essential purpose of caring for them, for their families, and of course, our own colleagues as well. And for that reason, this is the phrase that I would like to act as a guide for our activities. This is what truly states a difference and what other organizations and other companies have told us. We say, it is not the same to us. And regarding our education, it is clearly not the same. In the end, this has to do with a chain of events that, if you ask me, has three main components. Number one, the focus. So we have all included our assistants. We have gone into the shift. We're going into our rooms, or perhaps we are listening to this outside of our working hours, and we're trying to focus on learning more about critical lung pathology. We have made this decision to enlist in this event, to make notes, and to make sure that this knowledge is successful in its transmission. Of course, it is an effort of paying attention and applying the knowledge that you yield from this. Nothing will happen if we don't have these three components: focus, the decision, and an effort. So when we speak about care, I mean, surely many of you have spoken about empathy, and I'm sure that this concept will be brought about on many occasions today. But notice the following: you will also be speaking on technology, and this is a JAMA study regarding empathy. It turns out that GPT actually beats us. They beat us by a landslide regarding empathy for doctors, because we're not really trained to do that, to have empathy for physicians. Of course, we only think about the more technical aspects, more operational perspectives. But what I really wanted to communicate with this is that the fact that it is not the same for us, the fact that we care, the fact that we can actually set ourselves apart, is truly about having compassion. And we're not talking about pity. In Spanish, pity is associated to the word pity in English. No, we are talking about compassion, the Anglo-Saxon word compassion, the legitimate, the pure desire to help those we recognize ourselves in. So these are all actions that need to be transmitted in a cross-cutting way, and it has to translate in our daily work. So my message as a hospital director, as a doctor, and as a passionate defender of care, and perhaps not as passionate regarding critical care in the lungs, but rather say that it is truly not the same. We will do things that make a difference. Obviously, our work is highly technical. It is very strongly regulated, and it demands a great degree of precision and accuracy. For that, we have technology. For that, we hold events such as this one. We have a lot of education behind us. But aside from everything you're going to talk about today, innovation, equity, equality, bioethics, translating into knowledge into action, everything surrounding the lung, which, sure, it is our livelihood, but to have all of this combined, and that this all leads us to become more compassionate physicians, and for us to take action, not just talk about it, and that it is truly not the same for us, that a colleague's defeat has to make a difference. When we start to show apathy, that is when everything starts falling apart. So that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to give you a brief introduction for these concepts, perhaps a little less technical in nature. But finally, I wanted to leave you with this image and to say that nothing that happens today should be indifferent to us, and that it should only feed our desire to relentlessly pursue a better practice for our patients, because that is what makes us human. Thank you.